Hello, welcome to Triathlonology, a triathlon podcast by Animis racing team. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Jackie. We are a mum and son coaching team who have changed our lives through the sport of triathlon.
Our podcast aims to break down the mysteries of triathlon training and show you, the listener, how simple and flexible it can be so that it really does become part of your lifestyle and not just a hobby. Hello and welcome to another episode of Triathlonology, a triathlon podcast by Animis racing team. I'm Coach Oliver.
I'm Coach Jackie.
And together we're a mum and son coaching team from God's own county in Yorkshire, dispelling good advice in
Honest advice.
Straightforward way to understand it.
So, what are we going to talk about today, Oliver?
Well, today we're going to talk about doing your first ever Ironman or entering one for the first time.
Yeah, because we get asked about this a lot because people think doing an Ironman is the holy grail of triathlon.
And the be-all and end-all.
Yeah, and it is not.
Well, in our view, it's not.
No, it's not.
Nevertheless, some people really want to do it. It's like people who go running and just want to run a marathon or run London Marathon and never run again.
Yeah.
So, which is absolutely fine if that's you, no problem with that. But it's not necessarily like the be-all and end-all of running. Doing the London Marathon in the same way as the be-all and end-all of doing triathlon is not doing an Ironman.
A lot more to triathlon. The benefits of doing a triathlon than just getting a medal at the end of it. And we've talked about that a lot. So, how do we get from being Mr. or Miss or Mrs. Joe Public wanting to do an Ironman?
Well, first, I think it's important to say that anybody can do an Ironman. It doesn't matter how old you are or what sex you are or anything like that. Anybody can do an Ironman and anybody can do an Ironman at any age.
Definitely.
But to be able to do it, it requires a lot of commitment, like a serious amount of commitment.
Yeah, really. So you need everybody on board.
Yeah.
If you're married,
you've got a small family. You
need everyone in that family to be on board with your quest.
Because while we have got people to do an Ironman in, less than 10 hours a week's worth of training, for some people that ain't going to be enough, and you're going to have to commit to maybe 10 to 15 hours worth a week of training, which doing simple maths is like 2 hours a day on average.
And if you've got a family and a wife
or a husband,
and a job, most importantly, a job, because if you haven't got a job, you won't be doing an Ironman.
Yeah. So So in terms of commitment, in terms of time, it's potentially quite a lot. And it's not just a fitness commitment either. You're going to have mental commitment to the goal as well. So making sure that you are being consistent in your training, that you're dedicated with your training, and that you are realistically approaching all the things that you need to do to prepare correctly.
Because it's no mean feat. It's not got to be underestimated. The mental side of it is, I would say, probably just as important as the physical side. Because
even if you are really rapido, you're probably likely to be on your own for 10 hours.
Yeah.
Aren't you? And if you are just wanting to complete it, then you're going to have, either 18 or 19 hours, depending on the cut-off for the race.
Yeah, which is a long time.
A long time. I couldn't do that. I could only manage 5 or 6 hours on my own and I'm finished.
No, I'd just be falling out with myself, so no, I couldn't do it either.
No. So, doesn't mean just because we don't want to do it or we don't have the inclination to do it, it doesn't mean we can't coach it, because we absolutely can.
Yeah.
It's just our own preference, which is something that, again, you need to bear in mind when you're thinking about doing an Ironman or you're taking one on. You are going to spend quite a lot of your time
on your own,
training and racing. And if that's not something that you want to do because you're a sociable person or you need the social interaction, then, it's worth considering that before you embark upon this.
So you come to us and you say, Oliver, Jackie, I want to be an Ironman. I want to do an Ironman. How do I start? So what do we do?
The first thing will be to implement a structured training or coaching plan with you, putting you at the front of it with the hours that you've got, bearing in mind what we've said earlier, trying to accommodate that around your family and other commitments. And it really is that difference from going from a structured training plan where you're ticking sessions off and going goal by goal, point by point through each session and session by session each week and week by week and month by month, and really accumulating that training and that endurance. And that's the difference from doing like casual training. If you're just having a lark about doing a sprint triathlon, or you can pick one up off a few hours training, you're not going to be able to do an Ironman off a few hours training a week, or a couple of weeks training here and there.
No.
If you attempt it, it'll find you out.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Because when people come, you have to say, like, be realistic about the time that you can spend, because people will put all sorts down thinking, they'll do this and they'll do that. And when it comes to stark reality, it isn't practical. And I always remember Jade Goody. Now, if you're in England, you'll probably remember who Jade Goody was. And she was, I'll vividly remember her, stood when they interviewed people for London Marathon, they interviewed celebrities at like Gabby, what's her name? Logan will be interested. Oh, how are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And she said she hadn't done no training. And I thought, oh dear, this is not going to end well. Because she thought she'd just be able to rock up and just run a bit, walk a bit, run a bit. You don't do that in a marathon. It's hard. And it all come falling down, if I remember rightly. And I'll never forget that ever. And that's like an Ironman, because it's hard.
Yeah, and you have to prepare appropriately and diligently to be able to complete it. And with a well thought out plan and some professional guidance from people who understand and can point you in the direction, it's entirely achievable.
Absolutely, it is.
And if you execute the sessions correctly and don't stick training sessions together, so if you miss a training session for whatever reason, don't try and add it on to the next day and do 2 or 3, and because all you're doing is creating more fatigue, and you'll end up getting burnout or injured or both, and then that'll also kibosh a bit of you towards being able to do an Ironman.
You get, you will get ill. We've talked about this before, about the volume of training. If you're not prepared for it, then you will become ill. And again, you'll miss training. So it's about following. If you've engaged a coach, then follow their advice, follow their sessions, because it's all been well thought out so that it gives you the best possible chance of achieving your aims.
And while you will have to put training hours into an Ironman to be able to complete it, it doesn't have to be like all consuming.
No.
And you don't have to do 6-hour bike rides in the winter.
Yeah, because often I've seen people on social media saying, oh, I'm going from Scunthorpe to Leeds. Why? Because I'm training for an Ironman. Why? Why are you riding from Scunthorpe to Leeds in the winter?
And the counter arguments that is people will say, well, I'm building my base and building my brace, so I can got a big base fitness to be able to go out and do my shorter intense training in the summer. But from our point of view, we do reverse periodization. So in the winter, when it's rubbish weather, or all 6 months from October to March, as it has been in the UK this year, we do short, intense sessions on the turbo, on the treadmill, or running miles on the treadmill rather than necessarily always intense sessions, but certainly bike, good short intense sessions on the turbo, so you're getting the most out of it you can. And then hopefully when the weather finds up a bit and it gets a bit drier, come April, May, June, and you're heading towards your outdoor event, outdoor Ironman, then you can start doing longer rides in the warm when you've built up all you've got fitness, and now you're just racing, or you're training as you are going to race.
Yeah, it's about adapting your body and adapting your mind, so that it can be really, your training has to be effective and not overwhelming.
So, yeah, it's not always that you have to whack yourself in the wind and cold. There are other ways of going about it, particularly if you've picked an Ironman later on in the summer or in the early autumn somewhere abroad in warmer weather, then actually you can get a good block of training done inside in the winter into the early spring, and then through late spring and summer you can be doing more specific race-based training out, when it's dry and sunny. Touch wood, in England at least, if it's not raining or a little rain cloud isn't following you around all the time like on a cartoon. like it seems to be doing for us at the minute. Because the whole idea of reverse periodization is that as you get closer to your event, your training should look more like your event. So you will do more longer aerobic efforts at that point rather than shorter intense efforts.
So another thing we should talk about is you need to choose the right Ironman. Because obviously there are lots of different races, whether you want to choose a branded Ironman or one of the really, good independent ones like Outlaw, or I'm trying to think what the other one is. There's one in down south. I can't remember what it is, but anyway, there are other really good non-branded Ironman, but most people would want to do an Ironman.
Yeah, so you can get that tattoo when you're finished.
Yeah.
Once you've chosen if you're doing branded or non-branded, fine. But you also then need to think, what type of course do I want to race on? What type of weather do I want to race in? Because that will have a big effect on your training to do the event, but also your actual ability to enjoy the event. We've talked in previous times on this podcast about type 2 fun. Now, an Ironman in Bolton in the chucking down rain, where it's hilly, windy and cold, would definitely be my idea of type 2 fun.
Type 3 for me.
So it's not something that I would particularly choose from, but some people, time or money effort wise would choose that. Although it has to be said, having looked at how much it is to enter an Ironman and then how much it is to stay at the Premier Inn near Bolton,
I'd go abroad.
I'd go abroad because it's just going to cost you much more to do that. So,
and also whether you want to swim in the sea or in a lake, because that's another really important thing, or a river. It's really important because if your race doesn't set off correctly, in the way that you want it to, then it's a waste of you've wasted all your money.
Yeah, because if you're not a confident open water swimmer, probably best to avoid a sea-based triathlon, where the sea can be a cruel mistress, and you have no idea what it's going to do from day to day. Could be
hour to hour, really.
Hour to hour. It could be Mill Pond flat. Well, a Mill Pond flat sea sunk the Titanic, didn't it? But or it could be like Ironman Cork last year, which was in June, and it was really dangerous. That swim, really well. People died in it, didn't they?
Yeah.
But people don't ordinarily die.
Ironman Wales. It can be a really nice, calm sea, but other than that, most of the time it's really, really choppy.
But Ironman Barcelona, when people were getting fished out with seasickness, because it was so choppy last year compared to the year before when it's like a mill pond. So yes, so that is a factor. Like, how good a confident swimmer are you in what scenario? Because if you're not confident in open water swimming, you think I'm probably best in a lake or a river, then that's also going to impact on which triathlon that you choose or which Ironman event you're going to choose.
Yeah.
Do you want this to be a holiday event, or do you want it to be something that you're going to just go and do? Because that will also affect what race you pick. Because if you think, well, I've sacrificed all this time with my family for 9 months to be able to do this triathlon, and then I'm going to do this race, it'd be really nice afterwards to go on a holiday with them, then you might be able to find an Ironman event that is somewhere where you can go on holiday immediately afterwards and you can relax, having walking about like a cat with smarter tubes on its legs.
We're not joking.
And then, you'll get some quality time with your family, and it almost, thanks them for them putting aside their things to allow you to do your race. That'll be something. You can't necessarily have a family holiday in Bolton.
No.
Not that you can't do Ironman Bolton anyway, because it's now a 70.3.
But we're not dissing Bolton. We're just saying it's something to consider.
Yeah, the weather is usually rubbish. I nearly did an expletive warning then. The weather's usually rubbish, and it's a hilly, challenging course, and people don't tend to go for their holidays in Greater Manchester. But stranger things have happened. Also, like, do you perform better in the cold? Do you perform better in the heat? Because if you are somebody who can't deal with the heat at all, then again, that's going to influence you as to what race you're going to do. You're probably going to pick an Ironman in like Northern Europe rather than picking somewhere, in Southern Europe or Turkey or somewhere like that, where it's going
to... Or Ironman Nice or something like that.
Yeah, where it's going to be boiling, or it could be boiling. But again, if you're a heat person rather than a cold, you're probably going to pick that over somewhere, because for me,
Kalmar is what it used to be.
In Sweden.
In Sweden.
Or that one in Finland.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would. If I was picking an Ironman, if I was going to do one, I would be doing one somewhere in Spain or in Cascais, I think, probably.
Yeah, in Portugal.
In Portugal. where it's a rivery sea, and then I'd be doing, and it's a nice, moderate temperature in Cascais most of the year round.
Yeah.
Or certainly when it gets to it in September. Or Victoria Guest Days, I'd quite like to do that one.
Yeah.
In the Basque Country. Yeah, I'm not doing one, so but they would be my choices because it would provide me with the right weather, reasonable terrain where it's not particularly hilly, because don't particularly like hills or going down hills. I'm fine climbing hills, but I don't like going down them.
I don't like going down them.
And it's somewhere afterwards you could go for a holiday, so that's why that it meets all those criteria. But for you might just be out. I'm getting there, I'm getting the job done, and I'm going home like the SAS. Absolutely fine, but that has to factor in as to which Ironman you're going to choose. Now, if you've done a half Ironman before, or 70.3 as the norm, it will be a different approach to then doing an Ironman because you're going to go twice as far.
So, although we're not saying you do twice as much training, but the sessions will be a lot different, and it needs that time commitment.
It's going to mean that if you've done 70.3s and now you fancy doing an Ironman, you're going to have to do some more training, but it's going to mean involving some more sacrifice in family time and your own personal hobbies that you might like doing alongside triathlon. They're also going to have to go by the wayside a little bit. So that's, again, something for you to weigh up as to, is the juice worth the squeeze for doing this?
I mean, doing an Ironman is really... it's quite a life-changing experience because you're an Ironman. You've done something that is physically and mentally tough that nobody, well, very, very few people in this world will have done one. So if you've got, it gives you the self-confidence to go on and do other things or to have a breakthrough in your career or whatever. Or
You've pushed your limits.
Yeah.
And you'll have achieved something that you absolutely want to achieve, and you'll have shown you and your family that actually if you set a goal, you follow a plan, you stick to your plan, you'll reach your target. And we know what could be better than that.
Yeah.
So the secret, really, when you've decided all these things and you're going to do one, is really getting a proper balanced weekly training plan that is going to incorporate sufficient bike rides, sufficient runs, and sufficient swims. Now, if we were doing one, we'd be looking at probably 3 of each as the minimum.
Yeah.
But with your swims, you're going to have to be, and we've said this in previous podcasts, if you're doing an Ironman, you're going to have to be swimming 4K in a swim 3 times a week, absolute minimum.
Easily.
Absolute minimum, which there's no getting away from that. So again, if you don't like swimming or swimming is not a strong point for you, Ironman is probably not going to be the event that you want to be doing. But if you're prepared to commit to it and think, okay, I'm going to do 4K a week,
no,
4K a session for however many weeks it takes to be able to get to this Ironman, good for you, because you'll feel the benefit of it, and I will
take my hat off to you.
Yes, but also say that I'm probably with a 78% chance you will not be walking by the time you get to doing your run in the Ironman if you have swam 4K a day or 4K 3 times a week for however long you've been training for. You probably won't be walking with a 78% probability.
Yeah, because you will have got that endurance. Well, what do you want to call it?
Yeah, swimming endurance.
Swimming endurance, because
you'll be fit.
Because that's where it all falls down. You start, and we can't emphasize that enough. So the other thing that you need to do is rest and recovery are also just as important. So it's no good thinking I'm going to cram this in, I'm going to do this, because it won't work.
Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do a training session or doing it at 10 o'clock at night, it'll all have a massive impact on your ability to recover from the sessions that you've done. So I know from my own experience that if I train after 8:30 at night, I won't go to sleep until probably 11:30, and then my sleep will be a lot poorer as a result of that, and I'll get up in the morning feeling more tired, being more tired and fatigued. And the more tired you are going to be, tired and fatigued every day training for an Ironman, unfortunately. That's just a fact you're going to have to get used to. But you don't want to be any more tired or fatigued than you have to be, because doing that will cause or lead to illness or injury, which might derail you somewhat.
And then you might not be doing your Ironman. So other thing that people say, oh, well, I'm going to do Ironman, I'm going to lose loads and loads of weight. No, you don't.
Well,
Not really.
Some people will lose weight initially when they start training for an Ironman, and some people, when they get to doing the peak weeks, might lose a bit of weight. But weight loss by doing an Ironman should not be
Your be all and end all.
should not be your primary concern.
No.
Because you are going to commit a massive physical endeavour, and you need to fuel your body correctly.
So you need the correct nutrition.
You need to make sure that you're having sufficient calories a day to replenish what you've burned and to help your body recover and absorb the training that you're putting into it.
And it's the right type of calories. It's not fish and chips.
And there might be occasions where you just can't eat the amount of calories that you have consumed during the day. That's fine, but you're going to have to reconcile yourself to, most days I'm going to have to eat quite a lot of food to be able to do this. That'll be okay. You probably, even if you were consuming 4,500 calories a day, you're probably still going to lose a little bit of weight while you're training for it, because you'll probably be burning more than that. So
don't have unrealistic expectations that you're going to be like thin as a stick.
No, and particularly when it gets to your last couple of weeks of preparation for your event, you really should not be looking to be losing weight or taking that off by that point.
You need the
body fat.
To get you through.
Yeah, and so in the last,
you might even put weight on.
Yeah,
you do, don't you?
Well, I mean, we've all seen on Instagram professional athletes before they go to Kona being given massive blocks of cheese by their coaches, or huge tubs of ice cream, and being made to eat it all before they get to race day, because it stops them from losing too much weight and keeps the body fat on them that they're going to need on a race day. And they're professionals. So the same applies to you, just on a smaller scale. Now, you might also find that having a pre-season, if you're going like the autumn time, or a spring training holiday or training camp or training retreat, or whatever you want to call it, either on your own or in a group with some friends or with some athletes you've never met before, might be ideal as well, because you'll get used to traveling with your bike, particularly if you're going to be doing an Ironman abroad, and the problems and the consequences that come with that. But you'll also get some nicer weather training in, so you can do some outside stuff, particularly if you've been like a battery chicken and kept in your shed all winter and it's been dark and you've only had your garage light on. You might be grateful to be able to go outside and have some vitamin D in your life, and do some training at the same time, and get the mental health benefits that'll provide of being outside, riding your bike or going for a run in the sun,
enjoying it with friends, or because if you even do go on a holiday on your own, you won't be on your own for very long, because you're with like-minded people who have all got the same goal. So, and
if you're not necessarily, especially if you came on one of our training holidays, you won't be doing the same training necessarily as everybody else on the camp or the holiday, but you will be training at the same time as them. So you're still going to have that common experience of doing a training session together, even if it is a different training session. You'll also get to have a bit of a week off, or however long you're going to take from work.
From life, from mundane, everyday, all the nuts and bolts that go into your everyday life.
Now, the temptation with this,
it is a temptation,
will be to train far more than you do at home. So let's say you're doing 10 hours a week at home. You'll go away for a week and you'll train for 30 hours. That is the temptation. Do not fall into that trap. The most you should be doing is maybe 14 hours, absolute most, because you will not be able to absorb that extra load. You will make yourself sick. You will give yourself an injury, and you are on holiday. You should be doing some training. And then what do professional triathletes do when they finish training? They rest and they recover, ready for the next session. That should be the primary focus for your training holiday. Doing a good quality training session or two, and then having sufficient rest and recovery and nutrition to be able to go and do the next session and nail it.
It's nailing your sessions that count.
And not running yourself into the ground.
You're thinking, I've got to do 100 miles today. No. Or I've got to go running up a mountain. No.
But if you do that, that's fine. That should be your only session of the day.
Don't be going to anything else.
Get back by the pool, make yourself a cup of Yorkshire tea, and sit there and recover, because you've done a training.
Have a pastel de nata.
But your recovery is a training session when you're doing an Ironman. It absolutely is. It's as important as the aerobic work and anaerobic work that you're going to be doing. So, summing up, if you want to do an Ironman, you've got to choose where you're going to do your Ironman really first.
What sort of swim are you going to do?
What sort of terrain you're going to be racing at, what sort of weather it's going to be, because that will influence
the race that you enter.
The training that you're going to be doing to that race.
Yep.
Because then when you go and see a coach, you'll be able to say, oh, I'm doing this Ironman. And then that coach will know straight away, okay, that's hillier, or that's flat, that's hot, that's cool.
That's sea.
We'll be able to do different sessions to prepare you the best way that we can for the Ironman event. You're also going to need to be monitoring your nutrition and hydration, particularly even when training. Really take a broad brush approach to resting and recovering, because that, like I say, that's like a session. And those rest and recovery sessions can be time spent with your family. It doesn't have to be, laid in bed, but it can be if you want to. So you've got to try and balance a whole range of things when you're looking at putting together an Ironman, but it is possible to do. Anybody can do it at any age, and you just need to make sure you're getting yourself the right help. It's not something that I would advise anyone to take on without a coach or without a plan.
Yeah, I wouldn't be thinking, I'm going to use a plan from 220 magazine, because that ain't going to work.
Well, it might do.
It might do,
but what happens if it goes wrong?
Yeah.
That's the problem, as we've said before. Like, if you get a generic training plan from somewhere, and something happens where you miss a few days, what do you do then? Or who do you talk to about whether this session is right for you at this particular point in time?
Yeah.
So always the advantage of a coach over a plan. But if you're following anything, a training plan will completely get you to the end of an Ironman event. It might not be helpful all the way through your training, but it will get you to that point.
Yeah.
But pick something that you can do, stick to it, enjoy the training, enjoy the race, because you'll have spent enough money on getting to that point, and enjoy afterwards how everybody is so pleased for you and how you will have performed on the day.
Yeah, because it is a life-changing experience.
Yeah. And if you're the best you can possibly be on that day, you can't ask for any more than that.
Definitely not. So I hope we've helped make some people's minds up. And if you need any help and just want to talk things through, or ask us some questions, send us some questions. We want to help.
Yeah, if any readers out there have got any questions for us, send them into the show and we'll cover them off in a future episode. So until next time, I've been Coach Oliver.
I've been Coach Jackie.
And we'll see you.
Thank you for joining us today.
See you next time.
See you then. Or as we say in Yorkshire, see you.